Did you know that the average body fat percentage amongst men in the United States is a whopping 28%? And what's even more alarming is that less than 1% are under 12% body fat. To put that into perspective, you're statistically 9 times more likely to become a millionaire than you are to get lean enough to see your abs. So today we're going to discuss why 99% of men never reach 12% body fat. And then more importantly, the exact strategies you can use to beat the odds, strip off your belly fat, and build a lean athletic physique, all without cutting out carbs or having to waste hours on the treadmill. So full screen the video and let's lock in. Let's be honest, no one wants to be fat. No one wants to be out of shape. Every man says he wants to get lean, wants to see his abs, wants to look in the mirror and actually like what he sees. But here is the brutal truth. Most men don't actually want it bad enough to do what it takes. But I want to be really clear. It's not because they're lazy. It's because the modern world has made it really easy for you to give up. I mean, let's just look at what we're up against. You're stuck behind a desk for 10 hours a day. Your fridge is probably full of processed food. Your missus wants help with the house. Your kids want your attention. And by the time you do get a spare hour to yourself, you're knackered. So you do what every other man does. You put it off again and again. And before you know it, it's been 5 years and you've gained 10, 20, or even 40 pounds. And this is why most guys never make it to 12% body fat. Not because they don't have the genetics, but because the deck is stacked against them. Food that's engineered to keep you hungry. A job that has you chained to your chair. And fitness plans that are either too extreme or too vague to ever follow. So what happens? You try something for 2 weeks, the scales don't move, you get frustrated, and you give up. And that cycle, it's on repeat, over and over, until one day you just accept it. You think, maybe this is just who I am now. But it's not. You're not broken. You've just never had a plan that was built for the world that you actually live in. So if you've ever failed before, good, because now you're pissed off. You're paying attention and you're ready to hear what actually works. So let's break down the 5 reasons that most men never get anywhere near 12% body fat. And more importantly, what you can do instead. Reason number 1 is that they don't have a clear target or a timeline. Saying, I want to get in shape is too vague. I mean, what does that even mean? For one guy, it might be losing 5 pounds, but for another guy, it might be seeing his abs for the first time in a decade. If you don't know what the destination is, how the hell are you supposed to get there? So here is the simple fix. Set a real target. I want to get to 12% body fat in the next 16 weeks. That gives you a clear goal, a deadline, and something to measure yourself against. Now, how long is this going to take you? Well, here is a very simple way to estimate it. First, we want to figure out roughly how much fat you want to lose. So let's say you're around 25% body fat and you want to get down to 12. That's 13% of your body weight in fat. So if you weigh 200 pounds right now, that's 26 pounds of fat that you need to lose. Now, that sounds like a lot, but when you break it down and take it 1 pound at a time, you're all good. And most guys can realistically lose 1 to 2 pounds every single week without wrecking their muscle mass, their hormones, or their sanity. So if you're dialed in, that's 13 to 16 weeks. But obviously, it's going to take a lot longer if you're inconsistent. I get it. It's not fast, but it is doable. It's realistic, especially once you've got a strategy in place that helps you lose that first pound, because then all you need to do is rinse and repeat. And more importantly, now you've got something to chase, not just get lean. You're chasing a specific outcome with a real plan. And from there, you can work backwards, which takes us very nicely to number 2. And that is that most guys starve themselves and then end up binging. They cut carbs, they slash their calories, they lose 5 pounds in 10 days and feel like a hero. But then they blow it all on one weekend and gain it back by the Monday. Sound familiar? Look, this isn't a discipline issue, it's a strategy problem. Because when your fat loss phase is built on misery, your brain is just going to rebel. Why? Because your body is smarter than you. It knows when it's starving. So even if you power through with willpower, you'll eventually binge and then you're just going to blame yourself. So what you want to do instead is set a moderate calorie deficit, anything between 15 and 25% under your maintenance calories. Now, a quick way to calculate your maintenance calories is to take your body weight in pounds and multiply it by 15. So if you weigh 200 pounds, that's roughly 3,000 calories. Then you want to subtract 15 to 25% from that number, depending on how hard you want to go. So a 15% deficit would be 2,250, 20% would be 2,400, and 25% would be 2,250. What I would suggest you do is start at the lower end so it gives you more flexibility and it doesn't doesn't feel as hard. And then once you're a little bit more comfortable with it, you can go more aggressive. The key is to eat enough to fuel your training and your daily movement without constantly feeling hungry, exhausted, or craving all the junk food in sight. And if you want a more precise number, you can click the top link in the description and use my free fat loss calorie calculator. It's only going to take you 30 seconds and I'll send you my recommendation straight to your inbox. Then you want to plan your calories for the week, not the day, because fat loss isn't about hitting the same number of calories every single day. It's about staying consistent over time. So instead of stressing about being perfect daily, look at your calories like a weekly budget. So let's say your daily target is 2,400. All you would do is multiply that number by 7, which is 16,800 calories in the whole week. So now if you know you've got dinner out on a Saturday or drinks or date night on a Friday, you can borrow some of the calories from Thursday and Wednesday by eating 300 or 400 less on those days. This weekly planning approach makes it much easier for you to stay in a deficit without needing to panic every time life just happens. And then to make it easier to stay within your calorie target, make sure you're prioritizing protein every meal. Protein is the most important macronutrient when you're dieting. It helps you retain muscle, it keeps you feeling fuller for longer, and it burns more calories during digestion than carbs or fat. You want to aim for roughly 0.8 to 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight that you weigh. So in plain English, that means for a 200-pound man, you want to be aiming for anything from 160 to 200 grams of protein a day. And then if you split that out over 3 to 5 meals, that's going to be 30 to 60 grams of protein each meal. That could be eggs, Greek yogurt, or a protein shake for breakfast, chicken, beef, tuna for lunch, and fish, steak, or turkey mince for dinner. Once protein is locked in, you can then build around it with carbs and fat. Trust me, when you do this, you'll notice far fewer cravings and make fat loss a heck of a lot more consistent. And whatever you do, make sure you don't make the classic mistake that keeps guys stuck at 20% body fat, where they're eating food that's calorie dense and nutrient poor, because all that does is make you hungry an hour later. You want the exact opposite. Meals that take up space in your stomach without blowing your calories. Lean proteins we've already talked about, but as well as that, fibrous vegetables fill your stomach and take more energy to digest and break down. That helps to keep your blood sugar stable and send satiety signals up to your brain, telling it that you are full. Then you want to add whole carbs like rice, potato, or oats in moderation. Not because you have to restrict them, but because they're going to give you the energy you need to get up and move. The more volume that you can eat within your calories, the easier it's going to be for you to stay within your target. And another tip to make this even easier is to drink more water than you think you need to, because most guys are walking around chronically dehydrated, and it's very common to mistake thirst for hunger. So if you wake up and have 500 milliliters to a liter every single morning, ideally with some electrolytes, and then aim to drink at least 15 minutes before each meal, you're going to find it a heck of a lot easier to stack up 3 liters of water a day. And when you feel like snacking during the day, try water first, because trust me, you will be shocked how often that fixes the urge. Hydration won't burn fat directly, but it does support digestion, energy, focus, and appetite control, all of which are going to make it so much easier for you to stay in that deficit. And finally, give yourself permission to have some flexibility. And to do this, you want to use something called the 80-20 rule, because the biggest diet killer isn't the pizza that you have on a Saturday night. It's perfectionism. Trying to be 100% clean all the time leads to this binge restrict cycle, and that is not going to get you anywhere. So instead, you want to aim to get 80% of your calories from whole, nutrient-dense, single-ingredient foods. These are the foods that nourish your body, and then save 20% of your calories for a meal out, beers at the weekend, or some dark chocolate after every dinner, which is exactly what I do. This doesn't mean eating junk food every single day, but it means having a margin for life. Fat loss shouldn't be seen as a punishment, and if your plan doesn't make room for flexibility, you won't follow it. The goal ultimately is always going to be consistency and not perfection. If it's sustainable, it's repeatable. And if it's repeatable, it's going to work. And then the third mistake that so many guys make, and one of the biggest reasons that stops them getting down to 12% body fat, is that they train for sweat and not strength. Because when most guys think about fat loss, they think cardio, treadmills, circuits, HIIT workouts that are designed to leave you in a puddle of sweat. It feels productive, right? You're gasping for air, drenched in sweat, and you assume that that means progress. But the truth is you don't actually sweat fat out, you breathe it out. So you don't need to get better at suffering. You're trying to build a body that burns fat on autopilot, even when you're not training. And that comes from muscle. Why? Because muscle is metabolic gold. Firstly, it raises your maintenance calories, which means you can eat more and still lose fat. It also improves your insulin sensitivity, and insulin is a transportation hormone. That means your body gets better at transporting nutrients around your body. And probably most importantly is that it gives you the shape. It builds the body that you want under the fat. You shouldn't really be working out to burn fat. You should be working out to build the muscle under the fat. The nutrition, the diet, the habits, the lifestyle is what's really going to help you burn the fat. But once you've done that, the training which you've done during that process is what's going to give you that lean athletic physique that you want. So you don't need to be training 6 days a week for 2 hours per session. 3 to 4 45-minute workouts a week is more than enough. If you're training 3 days a week, you want to be doing full body splits. If you're going to go for 4, then I recommend you do an upper body, lower body split and run that cycle twice. Focus on the big compound movements that use multiple joints and the biggest muscles in your body, because the bigger the muscle, the more oxygen that is required to help that muscle to contract. That means the harder your body has to work to breathe in that oxygen, and then the harder your heart has to work to pump the oxygen in the blood to the muscle that it is trying to use. You're not trying to isolate here. So forget the bicep curls and the crunches. You're trying to build a foundation. And once you've got the basics in place and you're comfortable with the movements, make sure that you're starting to progressively overload. That means adding weight to the bar, reps to the set, or improving your technique over time. And that also means tracking your lifts. That's what changes your body, not how out of breath you are. Train with structure, not randomness. So pick a program and stick to it for at least 6 to 8 weeks, because random workouts equals random results. Your body needs consistent stimulus to adapt and progress. Lifting is the engine of body recomposition. It's not just for bulking, it's how you get lean and look like you lift. And then reason number 4 is that most men ignore their sleep, their stress, and their step count. Because most men think that fat loss is just about food and training. Calories in, calories out, job done. But if that's all it took, most guys would be shredded by now, wouldn't they? The truth is your body doesn't just burn fat based on calories. It responds to your entire environment. Poor sleep, high stress, no movement outside of the gym. These things all add up and they quietly kill your progress. Because when you sleep less than 6 hours a night, your hunger hormones go like this. You crave more sugar, you eat more without realizing it, and you burn fewer calories the next day because you're not as active. And this isn't because you're lazy, it's because your body is in survival mode. And then when you're stressed out, your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, stays elevated. That means poor recovery, more belly fat storage, and lower testosterone. And then when you add sitting all day to that pile, your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, drops. And that's where most of your fat burning potential comes from. The old advice of getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night is dumb. I don't know anybody who's getting 9 hours. And quite frankly, you don't need to. What you want to do is aim for 7 hours of quality sleep instead. So protect your bedtime like your life depends on it, because it does. No food 3 hours before bed, no drinking 2 hours before, and get off the screens an hour before. And make your bedroom as cold, dark, and quiet as you can. That's going to help you get to sleep faster and sleep deeper. Then try to lower your stress input. Now listen, I know that is much easier said than done, but when you put some focus into it, it's doable. That means setting boundaries with work. It means getting outside. It means practicing some form of daily decompression, whether that's walking, journaling, saunas, cold plunge, stretching, breath work, whatever actually works for you. But trust me when I say this, there is something for everyone. And even 10 to 15 minutes a day can change everything. The one to probably start with is walking more, because when you walk 10,000 steps a day, it burns an additional 300 to 400 calories without you having to do anything. It's not sexy, but it is highly effective. In fact, it is the most effective exercise for fat loss, if you can even call it an exercise. Make this a daily non-negotiable, because walking doesn't just burn calories. It reduces your cortisol, it aids your digestion, and it helps with your recovery too, all without stressing out your system. If you can't hit 10K, then start with 6, because anything is better than nothing. And given that the average man is walking just 3,000 to 4,000 steps a day, it's an easy step up. But this is what separates the guys who spin their wheels from the guys who get lean without burning out. And then last but not least, reason number 5 that these guys struggle so much to get lean is that they try to do it all alone. Most men operate in silence when it comes to this stuff. You wake up one day, feel uncomfortable in your own skin and decide, right, I'm getting in shape. So you Google a workout, you download a calorie tracker, and you try to piece together a program from 10 different YouTube videos. And you do okay for the first couple of weeks and maybe even a month. But then life gets busy, work ramps up, you miss a workout. Then 2, you stop tracking, you slip, and suddenly you're back where you started, or worse. But it's not that you don't know what to do. It's just that you've got no one who's holding you to it. You don't have structure. You don't have feedback. You don't have accountability. Or you've got 10 opinions contradicting each other from the internet. So what I recommend you do instead is get a coach or join a program that fits your lifestyle. Not some extreme 6-day-a-week shred plan, a real system, something that is built for men with jobs, with kids, with busy lives. And surround yourself with other men who are on the same mission as you. Because when you're part of a tribe, it's so much easier to stay on track because now you're not just letting yourself down. Seriously, do not underestimate the power of community. But if you don't want to do either of those things, then at the very least, make sure you're tracking your data, your calories, your steps, your weight on the scales, your sleep, how much water you're drinking. It doesn't really matter. The more of this stuff that you can measure, the better. It's not about obsessing, it's about awareness. And awareness is the antidote to self-sabotage. What I love so much about data is that it takes the emotion out of the equation and it puts your logical brain back in the driver's seat because you cannot fluke your way to 12% body fat. So data, data, data. Trying to do all of this on your own is like trying to build a house without a blueprint. You might figure it out eventually, but it will take 5 times longer, cost you way more in the process, and you'll constantly be wondering whether the house is about to fall down on top of you. Everything that I've shared today works, not just for me, but for hundreds of guys who have followed this process and changed their lives. If you want to shortcut the guesswork, if you want a clear roadmap, daily support, and someone in your corner who's actually fighting for you, then click the second link in the description. You'll see exactly how my coaching program works and whether it's right for you. No crash tires, no cutting carbs, and certainly no 5 a.m. cardio. Just a system that fits your life and gets real results. You don't need another YouTube video. You need action. And if you've made it this far, you're clearly serious. So click that link, watch the video, and let's get to work.